Welcome to the Urban Doctor. My name is Darren Bartlett and I'm your host for the show. This month we've been talking about dieting, nutrition, and all these things that come with food and how food is important to your body and the challenges that people have been facing, especially of how do I lose weight, how do I lose the belly fat, and all those things that people are concerned with. But today we're going to now digest what dieting means. And in the studio, I have Jackie Kirabo, who is going to be guiding us in that direction. Most of you think that eating small portions, but later in the evening, or avoiding meals, but in the evening, you're eating 3 burgers just because you didn't eat the whole day. Is that really sensible? I'm not sure, but you need to watch how your diet goes. That's very important there. So if you have any question that you want to ask on the show, just go look at the number that is passing on your screen, which is 0755 755 75. That's our WhatsApp number. Please don't call it. Send your text there, and we shall be able to respond to it. It's time for us to look at dieting. But before, Jackie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you for finding time to come by.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Jackie, we want to look at dieting. It's a new trend that, like you behind before you come to the camera, you said it's not a new trend, but it's a new trend that we're seeing most of the time people are now resorting to. Those who have been drinking a lot of alcohol think that by reducing alcohol and eating a lot of cabbage and probably boiled cabbage and rice is such a good diet, or avoiding to eat meals completely and having only one meal is a good diet to them. And so everyone has a different version of what dieting is. You as a nutrition, what is dieting?
So dieting, I'll start maybe by explaining about food. Let's start with food. Food is simply anything you eat or drink, something that you eat or drink. So when it comes to dieting is individual based because our needs are not the same. My needs as Jackie, they're not the same as yours. My diet cannot be the same. So that, when we're talking about diet, we're looking at what does this individual need, or what does this age group need? What are the nutrients that they need, and what can we avoid at this particular age? Because with each age group comes a particular need.
Good.
So when we're talking about that, we go in depth on a personal level. Our bodies are different, our calorie needs are different, our work is different. There are people whose work necessitates them to sit the whole day. So that diet for that individual is different from someone whose work necessitates them to walk around the whole day, carrying loads and loads of things. So diet is not actually a trend. It has always been there. When we look in the history of diet, there's a Hippocrates said, "Let thy food be thy medicine, or thy medicine be thy food." So diet has existed. There's a history of how diet has helped people from way back. When we look at the likes of Florence Nightingale, those are people that use diet from way back. So there's a history of nutrition. It's not just a trend. It has existed even in the US Army way back when we start to talk about its history. So diet is not just a trend. It has always existed.
What creates the difference in need? I mean, assuming I am in the same age bracket as you are, and why and what causes the difference in my body needs from your body needs? Of course, you've talked about work ethics, and assuming we all sit, we don't work together. We all sit, we don't work, we don't have work that requires us to use our bodies so much. That means we shall also we shall not require the same food. It will still depend on our body needs, right?
Yes, please.
What causes that difference?
What causes the difference is, firstly, now when we come to, let's say, nutrition assessment, when I'm assessing someone's nutritional needs, I'll look at their height, their weight, and those factors always vary for individuals. Even if you sit on the same table, your height is not the same
as yours, yeah. True.
Yes. So when it comes to assessing you as an individual to get your dietary needs, they may not be the same. There are also other factors such as maybe stress levels, exposure to sunshine, how happy are you, individually that would affect your dietary needs. The more stressed you are, it changes your diet. So we could sit on the same table, but my needs are different from your needs. My requirements are not the same. That's why diet is on a personal level. It's individual based. But however, there are dietary guidelines that are set, let's say for under 5s, for adolescents. There are nutrients that are key at every particular stage of life. But when it comes to actual dieting, let me say, every individual will look at you as you, not even your brother.
You look at my stress levels, you look at the kind of work that I do,
yes.
Some of the issues that I could be having, like lack of sleep.
Yes.
Also, when you look at those, then you can say, this is what you need to eat,
yes.
not this.
Yes, I can give an example now, like poor sleep. It could actually come from like gut issues. There's a link between the gut and the brain. So when we look in depth, you can find when this person has terrible gut issues, they're not digesting their food very well.
What is gut issues? You've already brought another term that me and them may not even understand.
So the gut is simply the organ that digests. It starts in the mouth, from the mouth until the anus, where the poop comes from, or the excreta. So most people have gut issues, ulcers, bloating, gas, and all that, which are all linked to a diet. So you could have poor sleep that is linked to the gut system. So when we're looking at an individual, that's why I'm telling you, we look at you. My gut may not be the same as yours. I could have nourished mine, but you have missed out certain nutrients for your gut. So we need to go in depth and say, is this person digesting food well? How happy are they? Actually, it's bigger. The more I get into the spaces of nutrition, the more I discover that, okay, there's a bigger part of wellness that affects even how you digest food. How happy are you? How stressed are you? How rested are you? All those factors still affect how you digest food, and still food affects those factors as well.
Okay, that made me to think about my lifestyle a little bit, but I think I'm healthy. Maybe I'm not. But now, you were talking about, when you were defining food, you said it's anything we eat or anything we drink. And whenever people tend to feel uncomfortable with their bodies, the first thing probably that comes into their mind is eating habits. And they start to say, oh, let me reduce proteins, let me reduce carbohydrates, let me reduce fats, and just in a sense of maybe balancing their diets, or they assume that maybe by eating a lot of carbs, like I've always seen people say, measure your carbs. I even don't know how they measure carbs. At the end of the day, they don't solve anything. So maybe you need to explain to us what proteins do, what carbohydrates do, what fats do, and if one was to balance a diet, how do they balance all these in their body?
Okay, so first and foremost, as you talked about, we have two kinds of nutrients. We have the macro, and then we have the micro. So the macro are those that are needed in large quantities. For, let's say, for example, the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are needed for energy. They drive you. Your brain needs the glucose to perform. They drive, they give the energy to go on. That's why if someone hasn't eaten food, they can faint. Because your brain is not functioning, your organs are not functioning well. It's the glucose which drives the body. So carbohydrates are the source of that energy. And then we go to protein. Protein mainly, it's for growth and maintenance. I can give an example. When a child is growing up, they depend so much on protein because they are growing so fast. That's why we give them milk, because milk is the highest source of protein. We give lots of protein sources then. And also we give carbohydrates, we give all that. And then we have fats. Fats have been misinterpreted that they're bad, but not all fats are bad. They're healthy fats.
Differentiate between the healthy fats and, by example.
Yes, I can give an example. Avocado is a really good source of healthy fats. So when you add avocado, when you add nuts, groundnuts, when you prepare your nut sauce and it has that natural oil on top, yes, it is really healthy fat. Then we have some likes of unhealthy fat that usually come mainly from the meats. Yes, those are lead to cholesterol, higher cholesterol levels and all that. But fats are not something to eliminate completely out of a diet. And that's why I'm grateful for this show, because we are trying to expound and let people know, how do I balance out my meals? So any of those classes I've mentioned, the carbohydrates, the protein, and then the fats, could be a problem if not properly balanced out. Let's look at carbohydrates first of all. There are some carbohydrate sources that are not healthy. Yes, they've been so processed. They've been so processed. I can give an example of one which is very commonly consumed, white rice. It has been so polished. And so such a food, it's not that you should avoid it completely. It shouldn't dominate your diet. It should not be something that you're eating on a daily, because when any food that is processed loses nutrients as it goes through the machines and all that. So you could opt for brown rice, which has not been polished. I can give an example of wheat as well. Wheat has also been polished. That's why we have brown whole wheat bread, and then we have also the white bread, which is fine. So when they process a food, you're literally getting only the sugars and you're missing out on the fiber and
the fiber on the other foods.
Yes, and some nutrients that have been removed. So when you're choosing, I always tell my clients one thing, that real food does not come in packages or boxes.
Really?
Yes. Real food comes from nature, fresh as is. So I try to advise people to choose foods that have not been tampered with. I can give an example, sweet potato. Nothing has been done to it, straight from the garden, and then you have it on your plate. So when we put sweet potato and rice on the same board, sweet potato is winning for me, because white rice has been processed, but this is fresh from the garden. And at that, I always tell people, with sweet potato, you cannot eat even one full sweet potato and complete it. You know why? A big one. You know why?
Jackie.
It has fiber.
Okay.
But with rice, you can eat a full plate of rice, and in the next few minutes, you're going to be yearning for more. So,
okay.
Yes. Then we move on to proteins. I always advise us to choose a wide range. Actually, proteins usually cause a lot of attention to most people, because the most thing they hear is avoid meat, avoid meat. Meat is not a problem. But the problem comes in when you eat meat every day. That's a problem, because you're missing out on sources from beans. Each food group has nutrients that you're missing out on, and they play a role in helping your body. Beans are important, peas are important, groundnuts are important, meats are also necessary, fish is important. So play around with all those and make sure you're getting from all the different food groups. I'm now defining a balanced plate. And then we move on to the healthy fats. Include most of those foods that have those natural fats. Avoid still very highly refined oils. Some of those oils are what we call inflammatory. They cause inflammation in the body. I talked about gut issues earlier. So they inflame the gut, and in the long run, we have things like inflammatory bowel syndrome. So try to get natural oils and natural sources of oil as well. So then this takes me to one thing I always emphasize, micronutrient superiority. Because micronutrients maintain our life. They maintain our well-being. Those are the vitamins and the minerals. So I want someone's diet to have lots and lots of those micronutrients. They're found mainly in fruits and vegetables, seeds, nuts as well. We need them to run life. But you discover that most of us have been taught that a balanced diet should just have protein, a carb, and some fats.
And I mean, those are the key three that I usually see, because we tend to think that the micro, like the vitamins, we shall get into the sun in the morning, and vitamin D's, and then we shall be clear about that. So that's what we tend to assume. But you see, what you've been mentioning about, the potatoes, this rice, the refined kind of foods, and those that are not refined. But there's a huge discouragement of people who are snacking. Is snacking wrong? And if it's right, what should you snack?
Snacking is actually a very good thing, but it depends on your needs, like I mentioned earlier. For example, snacking during pregnancy is necessary because your energy needs are more.
Mm-hmm.
So snacking is not really bad. It also depends on the kinds of snacks. The problem we have is most of the readily available snacks on the market are really unhealthy. They're
What do you mean,
biscuits.
like fried chips and all those things?
Yes, what we look at as snacks, the biscuits, the crisps, they've all been fried or they have a lot of sugar that your body does not need. One of the best snacks I recommend is fruit, an apple. If you go back, let me say, way back when we were still children, whenever you want to snack, you'd go either for jackfruit. It was so rare to look out for like bread or something. You'd get a jackfruit, you'd get a fruit. So fruits are really replenishing. What you need is just a glucose amp. Mm-hmm. You just need something small. And a snack usually has either a bite and a drink and water. It doesn't have to be a sugary something. So that's why we make our snacking really unhealthy. Snacking is so good. It is necessary.
Talking of water, truth is that there are very many people who don't actually drink water. I personally can spend 2 days without taking water intentionally. Mm-hmm. It's either in tea, juice, so it's not intentional that I take water. Mm-hmm. What are the benefits of taking the water as water? And would you say that my way of taking water is not good, taking it indirectly?
So water is water. When we talk about water intake, we look at firstly water without any other fluids that have water. Let me say without teas, without anything. Why water? Our bodies are 75% water. Mm-hmm. And children are even, a child is even more water than an adult. The brain is 75% water. So you cannot run without water. You cannot run without water. It's actually one of the causes of fatigue. If you always feel fatigued, then check your hydration levels. You need to drink about at least 2 to 3 liters a day. Yes. Okay, maybe 1.5 to 2 liters to 3, depends on your kilograms as well. Yes. But water, first and foremost, it helps with excretion, removal of toxins from the body. The reason why most people feel fatigued, they get regular headaches and all that, water removes any excess, just like any human being. When you eat, there has to be some trash that has to be taken out of the body. So water facilitates removal of those toxins, which is a very key factor for also functioning of the brain. At the same time, it facilitates the movement of certain nutrients around the body. Water still, for a working person, for a person who uses their brain so much, they need adequate hydration. It helps with clearer thinking, proper reasoning, because the brain is 75% water.
Okay, I know we are running out of our time, but I want you to, this is a question that I've received now twice in our series when it comes to food. Without taking medicines, what diet can a person of diabetes have?
What diet can a person of diabetes have? So when we are to use food as medicine, first of all, we kick out all the foods that quickly elevate blood sugars. I don't know if it is as simple as I say it. Some of the foods that quickly spike the blood sugars, like I talked about, are the processed foods. Then, of course, the useless kind of snacks. I call them useless because they're not necessary. Foods that are very high in sugar, intentionally added sugar, cakes, biscuits. We take out all those and all the processed foods. And then we move on to, there's a healthy plate, whereby half of your plate should have fruits and vegetables. They can be cooked, they can be raw. Then a quarter of the plate, we fill it with either beans or peas or groundnuts. Not to say that you should not have meat. You can have fish or chicken, which are better meats. But still, it goes on to maybe chicken. Local chicken is much more preferable. because of the way they are raised. There's less hormones used to make them grow. They move around and eat natural food, so they are better and still low in fat. So for people who think chicken is healthy, even the type of chicken you choose matters. And then we go
And
on.
how about how it's prepared? Is it roasted? Is it boiled? Is it
Yes.
is it what?
Deep fried.
Deep fried and all this.
Even the mode of preparation matters. Then maybe if you're to choose this other chicken, you could choose the breast because it doesn't have any fat. It's just meat. And then fish, we can do fish and chicken at least twice a week. And then when it comes to carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are the sugars now, let me say, we don't want carbohydrates that quickly spike or elevate your sugar levels. We look at a measure called the glycemic index. How quickly does a food raise someone's blood sugar when taken in? So surprisingly, sweet potato does not quickly raise your sugars because it has fiber. So foods that have fiber, there's a slow release of the sugar in your body. And since when someone has diabetes, there is low regulation of these sugars, we don't want them to spike up so fast. So we'll choose mainly, we can do matoke. Matoke it has a low glycemic index. We can do pumpkin, it has a low glycemic index as well. We can do squash. Squash is a cyst of pumpkin. Then yam is also okay. So those are some of the best. It also depends on the extent of your diabetes. Is it really so high? So as we bring the sugars down, we can ease down on what someone can have. But a half plate vegetables, then the carbohydrates I've mentioned, and mainly beans, peas, groundnuts, and then once in a while fish and chicken.
In 3 minutes, I know I would have closed it, but in 3 minutes, people talk a lot about sugar. They never talk about too much salt in their bodies. How dangerous is salt in people's bodies?
Salt is very dangerous because it could lead to high blood pressure. It could also lead to stroke, which are very, very deadly conditions. So high salt diets are not the best. The reason why people don't talk so much about salt is because they assume I don't take so much salt as I'm adding to my food. But salt can come even from snacks. There are some snacks that are so salty that I see even on the market lately. I don't want to mention the brands, but it could come from simple snacks. Yes, like some crisps that are really so high in fat, or those meats, sausages, ham, the bacons, they are salted. So when someone's diet is so rich in such foods, then they are taking a lot of salt. Yes. So salt is not just what you add, it's also the foods that you're eating that are very, very salty. And it also goes on to, there are people who have a sweet tooth and there are people who have a savory tooth. They prefer the salty kind of. Yes.
So add salt to mangoes, to pineapples, to everything.
So those are the people that are mainly affected because they do lots of, they avoid it. As long as it's not as sweet, I'm better off. So with time, you find that you're taking so much salt that you need.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for coming by, and I hope that you'll find time next time and pass by. That's been the Urban Doctor. Let me get your feedback on 0755 755 75. For now, I will say bye. See you next time.